By the time I was a junior in this high school, one of my primary abusers went into the office of President of the United States. They'd often conditioned me that I had nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. I certainly could believe that then. I mean, if I could have thought to tell, who would I tell? My mother, my father? The local police that my father had prostituted me to? Local politicians? U.S. politicians? Now I couldn't even turn to the President of the United States. I truly believed, I truly sensed that the whole world was involved in mind control. I thought the whole world condoned child abuse. I thought that's the way life was. I later learned, after Mark Phillips rescued me, that there is a place to run and there is no need to hide. They're the ones who've committed these crimes against humanity, and they have plenty to hide. And they're hiding under a blanket of national security. And I do have a place to run. It's right at them for what they've done, not only to me and my daughter, but to all of us. Senator Byrd ordered that I be taken to MacDill Air Force Base, right here in Tampa, for mind control programming. There was an enormous mind control effort going on at MacDill, and I was taken back there periodically throughout the years of my victimization. I was also taken to the NASA installation at the Kennedy Space Center at that time. Byrd then ordered that I be transferred to my first mind control handler. A handler is someone who follows orders from an owner, so that I would be in key places as ordered by Senator Byrd. My first handler was a guy named Wayne Cox. Wayne Cox still resides in Chatham, Louisiana, immune from prosecution due to who and what he is aware of involved in this project. I was sent to Wayne Cox for further traumatization purpose to create a whole bunch of those compartments in my mind, because Senator Byrd wanted lots of compartments for programs, since I would soon be a White House Pentagon level slave. Wayne Cox is an occult serial killer, and he is free on our streets, and he resides in Chatham, Louisiana. Wayne Cox had been working under the direction of Louisiana Senator J. Bennett Johnston. He was running paramilitary mercenary operations under Johnston's directions. The way this was done is these other multi-generational children who'd been raised in the project and were under mind control were triggered into action through Wayne Cox's severe traumas and told exactly where they were supposed to go and what they were supposed to do according to J. Bennett Johnston's orders. The traumas I had endured with Cox are absolutely horrific. And J. Bennett Johnston took full advantage of my mind and told me that he had been involved in the Philadelphia experiment. He said that on that fateful day so many years ago, that when that ship disappeared, it came back a spaceship, and that he had transported through time to become a senator. Well, he sure seemed inhumane to me, so this wasn't too hard to believe that he was an alien. And when he showed me in 1977, when he showed me the top secret stealth fighter, it looked like a spaceship to me. I mean, here was this triangular ship that nobody knew about at that time. It had been kept top secret. And he was using mind control illusions and manipulation of my mind to believe that he was an alien, so that I would feel totally helpless and carry out exactly what it was that he told me to do. Now, I'm not going to say that from my limited perspective under mind control, and even now that I've been studying so much else, that I know everything about aliens and that they're all people and they're all illusions like J. Bennett Johnston. I don't know. But I am saying that there was a deliberate, orchestrated effort to manipulate my mind to believe that my abusers were aliens, to confuse fantasy with reality, so that I would feel exactly what I was told to do. Anytime the government has secrets that they can keep from us, they can manipulate us by those secrets. In essence, they still remain 25 years at least ahead of us in technology, information, and knowledge, and secrets, and they are using them against us. I heard over the years many times over that the plan to usher in the New World Order would be to make all the people in this country and around the world feel totally helpless to prevent the New World Order from occurring, this world dominance plan, by saying that we had been invaded by aliens, so that we would say, oh, please, UN, come in and help us all. So bear in mind that there is a planned orchestration to get people to be submissive through the secret technology and information that they're keeping from you under the blanket of the so-called National Security Act that's threatening the security of our nation. J. Bennett Johnston felt like I was certainly ready for program after all the trauma I'd been through, and I was being led around by his illusions anyway, and sent me to Tinker Air Force Base for programming. Tinker Air Force Base is in Oklahoma, and I endured mind control programming there that was to confuse my mind with the Walt Disney theme of Peter Pan, and I became a Tinkerbell. At Tinker Air Force Base, I was programmed to carry out a criminal covert operation that involved J. Bennett Johnston's mercenaries. When the mercenaries were flown into South America, he did not want the plane to come back empty. It came back full of drugs. It was a genetic effort to have united a cult serial killer, Wayne Cox, with my multi-generational genes in an effort to create what they hoped would be a perfect robotic spy to carry out whatever they wanted her to do with absolutely no conscience. Right after Kelly was born, Bird said, okay, that's enough trauma, and Kelly's born now. Why don't you be transferred to Nashville, Tennessee, to my second. And then, as ordered, transported the cocaine across the state lines and into the state of Arkansas to a remote airport in Ouachita Forest. I've since identified that airport from pictures as being Mena Airport. It was 1978. And Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas at that time. That was my first encounter with Bill Clinton. I delivered the enormous shipment of drugs as ordered, and also delivered a message, a little packet of information, and a personal stash of cocaine from J. Bennett Johnston to Bill Clinton, which I watched him snort. He did inhale. And he told me to tell his friend Ben that it was really good cocaine. All that complete, by 1980, I had become pregnant and given birth to my daughter, Kelly. Kelly had been, it was a genetic effort to have united a cult serial killer, Wayne Cox, with my multi-generational genes in an effort to create what they hoped would be a perfect robotic spy to carry out whatever they wanted her to do with absolutely no conscience. Right after Kelly was born, Bird said, okay, that's enough trauma, and Kelly's born now. I want you to be transferred to Nashville, Tennessee, to my second mind control handler, Alex Houston. Alex Houston, like Mark told you, was a stage hypnotist in the country music industry. And the country music industry was to provide a cover for traveling to carry out the criminal CIA covert operations that I was to be involved in. Under the guise of the country music industry, I traveled to, as ordered, to various military bases and NASA installations where I endured high-tech mind control programming. This included sleep, food, and water deprivation, severe trauma, high voltage to compartmentalize the memory, and hypnotic or harmonic programming. My daughter Kelly had been born into the project and was subjected to these high-tech methodisms literally since birth. One of my primary mind control programmers was a guy named Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino. Michael Aquino founded the occult temple of Set. And these bases and these occult so-called churches are on our military bases. Michael Aquino is also the one who was named as a child molester and satanic abuser in the Presidio daycare scandal. Michael Aquino did not believe in Satan. He did not believe in the little red devil idea. He didn't even believe in the evil concept. But what he did believe in was the power that he had in the form of a high-voltage stun gun. And that was how he was programming my daughter and I both. I was also taken into Canada, Mexico, throughout the Caribbean, through the Norwegian Caribbean lines, Mexico, and in and out of Washington, D.C. In 1983, Senator Byrd acted in the capacity of a pimp and prostituted me to then President Ronald Reagan. Now, Reagan was heavily involved in the idea of mind control, and I often heard him say that he believed the only way to world peace is through mind control of the masses. I don't believe that there can be any world peace without peace of mind. And I know from experience that there can be no peace of mind under mind control. So he certainly is wrong. Nevertheless, that was the idea that he adhered to. I was also taken to a place in Youngstown, Ohio, that was referred to as Charm School. And it was at Charm School where I endured the usual sleep, food, and water deprivation and trauma, and then sex slave programming. This sex slave programming was to program me for different sexual acts that were carried out with various politicians who thought that their perversions would never be revealed. They were wrong. It's all detailed in our book, Transformation of America. I was also programmed to carry out specific sexual perversions in Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove in Northern California is a political playground, and a place where some business is discussed despite what they say. The business that's discussed is discussed in a little place called the Underground. And that underground is spelled with a capital U and a capital N. Underground. It was there I heard George Bush talking about mass genocide. What the plans were for mind control. And it was a Bohemian Grove that my daughter and I were subjected to brutal perversions, all of which were being covertly filmed. These covert films were then used for blackmail purposes because these criminals didn't trust each other. And they all had some bad information on the other one that they kept so that they could keep each other under control. I was also taken to various CIA near-death paramilitary compounds. One was in the Lake Shasta area, but the one I was taken to most often was in Lampe, Missouri. Lampe, Missouri is this little bitty place right near the Arkansas border, not too far from Mena Airport. And it's a place where there's a whole lot of black helicopters and where guys are programmed to carry out military operations. And it's also a place where the Swiss Villa Amphitheater is located, where different country music acts who are involved in the white slavery and cocaine operations are brought through on a regular basis. In Nashville, the country music industry had been taken over by the CIA and was being used to transport the drugs throughout the country. Later, during the mid-'80s, a guy named Boxcar Willie came on the scene. Boxcar Willie sexually abused my daughter, and she's named him as one of her sexual abusers. But he also had been an overnight sensation through an ad that he did on television. An ad on television that used certain harmonics to make people think that he was something wonderful, and he became a success overnight because it was Boxcar Willie's job for the CIA to lure the country music industry closer to this major CIA cocaine hub near Lampe, Missouri. And the country music industry was subsequently moved to Branson, Missouri, particularly the cocaine operations and the white slavery aspects of it. It was also in Lampe, Missouri that I saw Bill Clinton and George Bush together. In 1984, they were there to carry out certain perversions, as well as indulge in what they refer to as the most dangerous game. It's their favorite sport of hunting humans. It's taken from a military operation where a person fights for their life and runs for their life in an attempt to escape being hunted. My daughter and I both endured being hunted by George Bush, and he's often said that it was his favorite sport. But hunting humans was the part that he left out. Nevertheless, he and Bill Clinton were there that one particular weekend after elections, and they were talking about the fact that George Bush was going to be the vice president again for another 4 years. And George Bush didn't particularly like this idea. He didn't like being in the public eye at all, but nevertheless, he was going to do whatever it took to usher in the New World Order. Looking back at George Bush's past, you'll find out that he was first with the United Nations. Then he became a head of our CIA. And then it was my experience to know that George Bush was heavily involved in the Order of the Rose, as was every other perpetrator that I've mentioned, including Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan. And it's important to note the orders from the Rose were orders from George Bush. George Bush, although he may not be at the very top of this world dominance effort, is a very significant player. And it was also my experience that Ronald Reagan followed orders from the Rose, and that Bill Clinton followed orders from the Rose. On this particular day, while they were talking, Bush said what I'd heard Senator Byrd say on different occasions, that when the American public became disillusioned with Republicans,